So let's talk about what I watched just before I went to sleep. It was Piers Morgan, and he interviewed this Israeli minister, and he said to her, "You're from the right wing party of Smotrich and Ben Gvir and blah blah blah." I mean, he seems to know so much on the one hand, and yet he doesn't realize it's not an interview. None of Piers Morgan interviews are actually interviews. And a lot of journalists do that, but he's the worst. He preaches. On the one hand, he's like, "Oh, we're a friend of Israel." On the other hand, he repeats. And there, Mark Twain, the famous Mark Twain, you know who Mark Twain was? He's a famous journalist who actually said that if a parent, their child was to be a journalist, he would prefer that his child would be a prostitute than a journalist. He didn't think highly of that profession because in journalism there's so much distortion. There's possibility of distorting the truth because what you're doing. Another name for a journalist is reporter. A reporter, he writes or says what he sees. Now, we can never be completely objective because what you see or what another person sees are completely different versions depending on what your thoughts are, your belief system, and etc. So Piers Morgan obviously has a prejudice against the IDF, the Israeli Defense Army. He thinks that there are evidence. Now he quotes Haaretz. Haaretz is a very extreme leftist paper. And I'm surprised that the minister didn't say, "You say I'm on the right wing, but you're quoting extreme left." And the fact that Israel does have a newspaper that publishes such opinions tells you what kind of society Israel is. That you can say, you have the freedom to say such a thing. But absolutely, Haaretz is not a very reliable source of information because they always show, like they show the victims in Gaza, but they don't really. They forget that to connect the dots, and once you connect the dots, it goes back to Hamas being the rulers there, and they're the one who are in charge of the children not getting the food from the humanitarian help. They've got tons of food coming, and then they're starving. So what is the reason? Still today, the Hamas is hijacking the food and supplies, and the soldiers have to protect it, and they shoot. And you can say, "Oh, they're shooting the people," or you can say they're protecting it from the Hamas taking over and making sure it does get to the children and the families. And why would IDF soldiers actually want to kill children? Look at the ideologies. Yes, there's right and left, but who says that the right is wrong and the left is right? Look at the UK. The left is the most distorted, racist parties. The so-called liberals are supporting terrorists. They're supporting open borders, where all kinds of people can just walk into the UK and get benefits that the people from UK don't get. You know, there are people in UK who don't have money for heating, and these immigrants live in hotels. They put them up in hotels and give them 3 meals a day, while there are people in the UK who don't have enough. And the same thing in Israel. It happens a lot that the local people don't get the benefits that other people get, and namely Arabs, by the way, that they get better conditions than the Israeli Arabs and Jews. Arabs, and you know, the fact that they present our army, Israeli army, as having the goal to kill Palestinians is so distorted. And you know, it's like it's distorting what Israel is all about. It distorts our ideology while we're here. And there are people that live here, Jews and Arabs, who believe the same things as Piers Morgan. But these are just their belief systems, their ideology, what they somehow came to conclude. But I came to conclude other things because I think, as a person who lived also abroad, that Israel actually is surprisingly liberal, surprisingly peace-seeking, because you have to be pretty naive to live in this neighborhood and to seek peace. And children are not brought up to hate. There's no, maybe, I don't know, I don't think any child in Israel is brought up to hate, and definitely not like the children of Arab countries and in Gaza and maybe in East Jerusalem as well. So you really have to realize that the Arabs have such positions. I got rejected from work by people that have less education than me, but they are Arabs that have a position of power and they can decide if I have a job or not. One of them is the Jewish Arab kindergarten, which is Rudolf Steiner. By the way, Rudolf Steiner was a Nazi, and the system doesn't prepare children for life. It's a very nice system, and I'm a very creative person, but I also know that children in kindergarten need to learn basic skills in order to succeed in school. They don't have grades, they don't teach them to read or write or mathematics, they just teach them to paint. And as a daughter of a kindergarten teacher and a person who has a master's degree, it's funny, I was rejected from this system. Oh, you didn't learn the system. I'm sorry, but why would I need to learn a system that teaches children? It's nice to think that they're artists, but in reality, even artists need to have certain skills in order to attend school. And if you don't have them, you're not going to have the education that maybe you might want to have. So not giving kids basic skills in math and language is like the same criticism I would have towards religious schools, extreme religious schools that don't teach them basic skills, like reading. Well, maybe they can read, but they don't have language skills, certain language skills, or science or math. And also the fact that she lied to me in my face. She says she only takes young teachers. She would take me as a teacher assistant. But of course, I'm overqualified with my master's degree to be a teacher assistant. There's no teacher assistants who have a master's degree. It's better for me not to work in education than to work in such a position, because I have a different view. Once you have a master's in education, you can't be a teacher assistant. Sorry. A teacher's assistant, from what I saw, is a teacher. I worked as a teacher, but I don't have a teaching certificate, because I almost finished it. I was missing 2 courses and they wanted me to do the whole thing. And since I'm in a different position and so many years have passed, I realized teaching certificate, you learn nothing. There's no skills that teach you how to run a class, nothing. It's just courses that have absolutely nothing to do with teaching. I'm talking about for people that already have university degrees, and it's like a 1-year program. It costs a lot of money and teaches you nothing. And it's just red tape you have to go through in order to be part of the system. And since I've lived so many years on earth without being part of a system, and I think the only good system is a music system, I'm maybe contradicting myself, but I think I was very good at fitting in the system, and now I have a job possibility to work in the system again. I will take it, because I do think that children need to go through the system in order to be able to study later on, higher education or whatever they need to do. There are things you have to do. And if the kids study in a system that teaches them that they don't have to learn math, they don't have to have grades, they don't have to have numerical evaluations of their knowledge, then it's really hard for them to fit in. It's hard for me to fit in, but it's for other reasons. It's because I reached the conclusion that a lot of systems are corrupt and bad. And it's so sad that there's a Jewish Arab school supposed to bring people together, but the woman is totally, one time she wasn't even there. I went all the way to Jaffa, she wasn't even there. She's much less educated than me. She doesn't even have a university degree. She did this teaching degree. She said 4 years, twice a week. She went to learn to paint or to do whatever. I mean, I was accepted in art school. I can paint, and if I need to learn to paint, I definitely don't need 4 years, twice a week to do that. I have my own ways of drawing, and I don't need somebody to teach me how to draw in order to be in education. I have a degree in creative education, and the fact that I'm not good enough for them, they're not good enough for me. and she knew ahead of time she couldn't take me because it's a sort of a sect, the Waldorf school. They only take people that have the Waldorf training, and it's a sort of little sect. And that's not how you teach kids to live together. Coexistence will come when you have a system that teaches them how they can live together. And since the Arabs don't have to serve in the army, and the Jews do, it's already, so there are a few Arabs that do that, but they choose to do it. And the fact that she lied to me about age, that she doesn't take, like she only takes young teacher's assistants because it's really physical work. Everything she said to me sounded like I'm not good enough. And it was funny because then she talked about her marriage for some reason and how her husband was horrible. And she's very unaware of the fact that it's very unprofessional to talk about your marriage at a job interview. I don't know her. It's the first time I met her. She made a very bad impression on me on not showing up for the first time. I came all the way to Jaffa, and she's like not even there. And she couldn't even send me a text. And then while I was there, she was answering the phone to somebody called Palestine. Now, how can you be called Palestine if you want to be Jews and Arabs living together? Palestine is very, for me, when I hear Palestine, it conjures the association of racism and anti-Israel and not wanting Israel to exist. It doesn't, because, the Arabs could have had their own country many times, and they chose violent, very violent war time after time after time after time. And it's a very sad reality that some Arabs who live in Israel still don't like living in Israel and would have preferred Israel wouldn't be a Jewish state. And yet they enjoy things at the Jewish states that they would never have in an Arab state, which are opportunities. In fact, they don't have to do army service, but they can just do whatever they want. They have they have advantages at attending university. They have first priority into getting accepted at university. They have a lot of benefits without the disadvantages, and and they have a whole journalism feeling sorry for them. But why don't they feel sorry for the Jews? Israeli Jews have to go to the army and sacrifice their lives in order to protect the borders, in order to protect this country. I mean, I don't think Arabs have it better in Arab countries, otherwise why are they leaving? And in Israel, it's the opposite. We're being attacked by Iran, and Israelis are doing everything, paying a lot of money in order to get back to Israel and willing to live in bomb shelters and being attacked numerous times a day. They want to come back to Israel. And even Arabs want to come back. I talked to a very lovely Arab lady who lives in the U.S. She wants to come back to Israel. She prefers Israel to the U.S. She misses her family and she misses Israel. So, Piers Morgan is a very ignorant, prejudiced journalist. And the fact that, I'm for Israel, I felt bad for October 7th. It was horrendous. Yeah, well, obviously you don't get it that October 7th doesn't stop at October 7th, because the intention of the Hamas is to do it again and again. And if Israeli army wasn't there, they'd do it again. They'd come even here to the center of Israel. And that was their intention. And the fact that you're not attacking people that think otherwise shows you're not an independent thinker, and you're definitely not on the side of Israel. And I think the problem in our countries, we don't have a lot of English-speaking people to be able to talk to Piers Morgan and to actually, you need to know English on a high level in order to understand what he's saying, not just the English. And what he's saying is really, I'm a friend of Israel, and yet he's challenging her, presenting a very distorted anti-Semitic view of Israel, which is completely doesn't come aligned with the school system, education system, compared to the one in Gaza and in East Jerusalem and wherever the UN is. That teaches openly teaches Hitler's ideology, just like this Arab Jewish school. I should have been openly critical to realize that Rudolf Steiner was a Nazi. He was a racist, and his system, Waldorf School, has taken a different shape in the U.S. It's a more open-minded, nice system, but I'm not sure it's like that in Jaffa. Because if you lied to me several times, you don't show up. I show up for a job interview, you're not even there. It happened to me in another thing with an Arab woman in a store, and she didn't even show up. So it shows to me antagonism, and what am I supposed to conclude when they hire mostly Arabs or only exclusively Arab people? What am I, I didn't see one Jewish person like working there in the system. They were all Arabs. The Jews were working in the office getting the money for the school from leftist people, obviously, who think that it works, but I don't think it will work. I don't know. She says they're like a community. Maybe if it's a community, then don't even invite me to an interview if I don't fit in your community, because I'm not part of that community. I'm not an Arab. My name is not Palestine, and I actually have an education. Just don't invite me. Why do you invite me twice to a job interview? So you can mock me, so you can show me that you have the power that I don't, that you have the power to give me a job and you don't. So it's called Abraham's children. But if Abraham's children are supposed to be equal, then why don't you treat me as an equal? Why do you also do ageism? Why do you say I'm too old to work for you? But then I saw an Arab woman that looks much older than me, much older. She looks like 80, and she works there because she's part of the community and I'm not. Jaffa is part of Israel, is part of Tel Aviv, and yet you make it as if it's a closed little community that only hires its own. And that's what they said in the coffee shop. That is very leftist, by the way. Now my eyes are also open. That publishes things that are against the existence of the state of Israel. And there's a lot of material there that is not very nice to Israel. Side by side, these books are supposed to be very sweet. I do appreciate honesty, and there was an elderly Arab man, and he said, don't you know that people give jobs to the ones that are closer to them? And at least he's open about it. I suffered from discrimination from Jews as well, by the way, just because they don't like me, or because I'm not the right sort of person for them, or because I threatened them, because my English is too good to be an English teacher. I had an English teacher not take me on. Her English was horrendous. She studied in the UK and she couldn't even speak English. Okay? So Sam, thank you for listening. And let's hope that one day I will wake up from this being very naive person and realize that there are nasty people out there, and it's nothing to do with me. Like there's nasty people who hate cats. There are nasty people who hate me just because I'm Israeli, just because I'm Jewish, just because I was born the way I am. Things I can't help. And my personality and my knowledge of English threatens them, and my education threatens them. And instead of wanting an educated person, they want somebody that they can be above them, somebody they can control, which is exactly what was wrong with my marriage, by the way. And what's wrong with a lot of dysfunctional relationships, that you want to control other people and you feel threatened by what they have to say. And honesty shouldn't threaten you. So I left her a message telling her all this, because I think she has a right to know. And I think people have a right to know that the children of Abraham is a scam. They're not the children of Abraham. They're Arabs that seek money to have this alternative school system where the kids don't learn math skills, don't get language skills properly, so they're not really prepared for school. And a serious person who wants their kids to have an education would never send their kids there. And a serious person who has an education would never want to work there anyway. It's a good riddance to all those who discriminate against me. And I guess I should try to belong to a club that won't have me, as Groucho Marx said. I should be proud to be a Jew and an Israeli, because there are so many good things that are done by Israelis and Jews. And anyone who speaks against the IDF simply is biased and doesn't realize what the IDF does. It protects Jews and Arabs who don't have to even go to the army. And that's what I have to say. Thanks for listening.
I wasn't listening anyway. I'm falling asleep.